Thanks, Karen. I'm glad you're excited. We're excited too. We've spent a lot of time working on this year, and we're ready to get it out to our customers. So I'm going to walk you guys through at a very high level what we do, and it's a 3-step process, and kind of walk you through how we clean and normalize and standardize your guest data. And so kind of the step 1 of this process, after we've collected your data from your data sources from your contact list upload, we send it to our NLP. Kind of first pass at this is our NLP library that will standardize, cleanse, and normalize all the data. And so we will take it, we will remove all the strings, we'll lowercase everything. We just get it ready to actually do some comparisons. It's hard to do comparisons on dirty data. And so we want to clean it up and standardize it across your entire data set.
Right. And that's great. Anybody who's seen PMS data knows that it is always dirty. So that's great. And can you tell us what NLP is, just for the folks out there who haven't heard that before?
Yeah, it's natural language processing. So it's, there's a lot of libraries that you can leverage that are very, very powerful at understanding language and contextual text.
Great.
And so we use that. And the real power of using NLP is not necessarily to just kind of cleanse and normalize, although that's important. But what we really are excited about is this notion of tagging the data, giving each entity in the data set of your guest meaning. And so we really understand when a name is a name. We know that, and we know a location, and we know a company, we know a phone number, and we know an email. And all that really becomes powerful later on in the process that I'll talk about. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind, and I'll bring that back up later about why we tag data. So the next step, kind of part 2, is creating these clusters of candidate sets. And so, one of the challenges of doing profile synthesis at scale, whether it's machine learning or not, is just computationally it's expensive. You're comparing a lot of people to a lot of other people. And we don't want to do that. We want to do this quickly, and we want to be able to do this accurately and fast. And so what we've done is we use some more machine learning algorithms to actually create these, what we call clusters of candidate sets. And so in the example that we've been talking through of Caroline, there was one record, Jane Smith. And as we enter into this phase of the machine learning profile synthesis, we would say, hey, Jane doesn't really share any characteristics to any of these other profiles, this C. Bertel, Carolyn Bertel, Bertel Carolyn, Carolyn Bertel with a little bit different spelling. So we want to exclude Jane. We're not going to compare Jane against all of these people. Jane may be compared against somebody else, but she won't be compared against this group. And that's important because that saves us a lot of computational time. And time is important. We want to get this done quickly for you. And so once we do all the clusters, on the next slide this is where we send it to our classifier. And this is kind of at the core of the machine learning profile synthesis, is this classifier that we've written. It takes in all of the comparisons and does a bunch of pairwise comparisons. So we look at each of the different records and we say, hey, do these people match in this candidate set? And so in this example, the red C. Bertel would not be merged with the other Bertels because the first name and the email address don't match. They're using, maybe a personal email address, and the other ones are a different work email address, or we can kind of match stuff up because we have the phone number. And so how this works is the more data we can get from you on the next run, let's say Caroline checks back in on this cbertel01@gmail, and you say, hey, give me your phone number. Now, all of a sudden, when we get that data from the PMS and we rerun the profile synthesis, we've now merged her back in with these other Carolines that we know about, right? We want to be confident that who we're matching. And one of the things, going back to this tagging data, that's really interesting, it's not as apparent in this example, but let's just take location. So, here we're in the Bay Area. Let's say a Caroline was in this candidate set and she had an address of Chicago. Well, we would know that because we could say, hey, Chicago and San Francisco, we would geocode those and say, we know this is a location. These are far away from each other. Let's lower the likelihood that this is the same person. Conversely, if she has an address of Marin and one is in San Francisco, we may infer like, hey, maybe one's her work address and one's her home address. let's actually bump up the likelihood that these are the same people. And so this notion of tagging comes back to really help us in the classifier section to use the power of the data itself to help identify if these people are the same or not.
Very cool. So one thing you mentioned, Jason, is that that we're running this constantly. This is going on in the background constantly, right? So this is not a one and done. If we get more information on the third Carol there, the one that's in red, you mentioned if I get a phone number now, or I get some other piece of data that helps me, that profile can then get merged again. So it's never done. Is that correct?
That's right. That's right. And so we want to avoid false positives. We don't want to merge people that we're not 100% sure or 99.9% sure. And so we've really tuned the model to operate that way. And so, in this case, yeah, we would want to know a phone number. And if we had a phone number, we would be able to tie it back in confidently, right? And then all of a sudden, the next day you log into Revinate, and now you've seen more information on this overall profile of Carolyn.
Great. And, and one last thing I definitely want to call out for our customers out there is that this also works with OTA emails, right? So if you've got a guest that comes in on an OTA booking, it's really critical that you collect as much data as you can from this guest. So whether that is using, on a Wi-Fi sign up, or, you've got a QR codes, you've got flex surveys happening. So you identify, you get phone numbers, you get different pieces of identifiers. We can start to tie that back. And even if you have and we've already seen this in our data, we're able to show, hey, this guest came in on an OTA, but this is actually their personal details. Is that correct? Is that how that works?
Yep, that's right. That's right.
Wow.
Yeah, we've spent a lot of time handling mass OTA emails so that we can merge those and surface insights about your guests. And it's really important because a lot of people have that. A lot of people come in with these emails.
Again, having been in the industry for a long time, holy grail. If you can tell me who in my database came in on an OTA and I can start communicating with them directly and start getting bookings for them directly, that's important to me. So that's a huge, huge win.
Yeah. So, looking at this slide, kind of the summary of all of this, this is the view that we want to give you, our customers, right? Taking Caroline, we have all her individual records. She stayed at Hotel A. She stayed at Hotel B. Hotel A, she stayed 4 times. Hotel B, she stayed, one stay. You want to be able to see, great that you can see that across your group, Hotel A and Hotel B, but you want to be able to see in aggregate, how valuable is she? Well, now we know she stayed 5 times across both of my hotels, and she spent more money than any hotel thought individually. I would say she's a valuable guest, right? And if you just look at maybe your Hotel B, you may not think as much as you actually saw her collective profile. And so that's really what we want to arm you with, is the ability to get insights into your guests, to identify those that you are your most valuable guests, and to be able to reach out to them and to be able to just understand who your guests are is our ultimate goal for you.
Yeah. And what I love about this, you've talked to us about how we connect across multiple PMSs. So I think we've got over 80 connections at this point to different PMSs. So if you're a hotel group that's got different flags, different PMS, different versions of the same PMS, doesn't matter. We're going to take all of that data, put it into a single layer, and run that profile synthesis across. So that is, again, really exciting, I think, if you're a hotelier, because now you understand the true value of this guest. And if you think about it, the reason we have loyalty programs in the first place was to give us a single identifier across stays. And with profile synthesis, it's still great to have loyalty programs, to be able to reward guests. But if you're just trying to identify who your top guests are, this is a system that's going to do that for you.
That's right. And I also want to make one statement, because I think it's important for people to know, we're only merging your guests against your data set. We're not merging it against any other hotel's data set. So it's really specific to your group. So you don't need to worry about your data leaking over into another hotel group and them seeing the guest data, us merging up. We're really focusing just on your group and your properties. So it's, we're keeping the multi-tenant SaaS application true to its nature.
Thank you yes, definitely. Thank you for spelling that out. As we mentioned, we take infrastructure security very seriously, including multi-tenant. And hey, while we're on the topic, everything that has to do about privacy, GDPR, all the different rulings. So all of this comes together seamlessly. But yes, you're looking at your guests across your group, but you're seeing the true value, which is, well, truly very valuable, right?
It's been a fun project. I mean, it's been a great year developing this, a lot of hard work, and we're excited to roll it out.